Aloha and welcome to Maunalua Past, Present, and Future. My name is Anne-Marie Kirk and I'm a member of the Livable Hawaii Kai Hui and also a member of the Kaiwi Coalition. We are located in the Ahupua'a of Maunalua, which is on the east side of the island of Oahu. I know that's a lot of information, but I know you can handle it. And you can handle it because I have a really great guest with me today and our conversation is going to be wonderful. I have Mr. Reese Liggett with me.
Great to be here, Anne-Marie.
Thank you so much, Reese, and thank you for all the work that you're doing at Kaiwi in Vavamalu or Vavamalu. You'll hear us say both those in our conversation today. So, Reese, when we start talking about this very special area, let's take a look at one of the first images that were ever done of this area. It's an 1833 map by Ursula Emerson. So if we can take a look at our image. We have, and this is one of the first images ever of this side of the island. And this is a map from 1833. And you'll see this is from Ursula Emerson. An amazing map. She worked with a gentleman named Mr. Dennison who was out in the field, and they put this map together. And as you looked on the blown up side of the map, you'll see that Kaiwi coastline and that area that we're going to be talking about today. So when we look at a map like that, what do you think when you look at that? History, culture?
Yeah, it's been there a long time, and people have been there a long time. And,
exactly.
And it's changed a lot over time.
Yes, it has. In fact, speaking of change, let's go to our next image. And this image comes to us from 1931. And this is the image, this is our image from the 1920s. And an aerial shot, which you think, how did they capture that, right? But again, we're looking at an area along the Kaiwi coastline, and you'll hear us use two different names as in our talk story today. We have a Vavamalu, and you also hear Vavamalu. So that is that ocean area, and that inlet you see is called Koloko. So if we start looking at our coastline, and things change, right? And then some stay the same, and that beautiful area stays the same. I want to go to our next image because it shares with how people started to go to Kaiwi, and that was through the building of the Kalaniʻanaʻole Highway. So this is an image from 1931. So when you look at that image, Reese, what are you thinking?
It's come a long way. They had to go out a lot to go from a trail to a road, for sure.
And if we go to the next image, we'll see how that road came to be. And this is a picture from the 1930s, and that coastline, now people that are living in Oahu start moving out there. And if we go to our next image, we'll look at this area, and this is from 1955. And a beautiful color photo of this area, and our Kalaniʻanaʻole Highway would have been coming down this coastline. Again, Reese, what do you think in looking at this picture?
I'm thinking about how dry it's been this year. And it's not very green out there right now.
So I want to talk about the work that you do in this area. So explain to me, Reese, I see your Sierra Club shirt on. Tell us about what you do out there.
Well, I've been involved with the shoreline. I got involved in 2001 with Councilmember Duke Bainham, and he agreed with me that the coastline could be improved, could be unified, it could be treated better. And he and I started work, and we got a resolution through City Council, and things were going along. And then he announced for mayor, and I was excited about that because my councilman was going for mayor, and then he passed away during the campaign. So I sort of laid back for a few years until Tommy Waters came to my front door about 10 years ago, and he introduced himself, and he said, My name's Tommy Waters, and I'd like your support for City Council. And I said, well, my name is Reese Liggett, and I'd like your help in protecting and recovering the coastline, particularly Vavamalu Beach, which had been driven on by off-roaders for for decades.
So we're talking about that protection, but I want to look at that next image we have coming up, and this is from 1971, and this is the beginning of the Kalama Valley movement. And at the same time, that protection that Reese is talking about that we need today, actually people started that nearly 50 years ago. And if we go to the next image, we'll see that the groups that step forward is a group called the Vavamalu Association, Save Vavamalu. And they started writing letters to the editor and really, talking about saving this area, of not developing this area. And so people are voicing their concerns the same we are today. So in this picture right here that we're looking at, Reese, we really see them coming together of the Kalama Valley movement and the Vavamalu Sandy Beach movement. And this photo is from 1972. And it's just an amazing part of history of East Oahu, of people standing up and having a voice. And with Kalama Valley, we know that it eventually ended up being developed, but with Vavamalu, we know that the community was able to save this. But it's a journey. So let's look at the next image. And that next image we have, Reese, is from 1972. And this is what Vavamalu would have looked like. Another Waikiki. What do you feel when you look at that picture, Reese?
Well, I remember hearing about this in the Kaiser Aluminum Company. I was just very upset because when I make that turn from Hanauma Bay and see that coastline, that's our Big Sur, and I didn't want to see a resort there at all.
Yeah, I know. Look at that photo, and I think of all those groups that came together. I mean, you had people from Waimanalo, you had people from Sandy Beach, you had people from across the island looking to stop this. And then as we move forward, and you talked about that beautiful view, and I have two images to show you because that's the view you're talking about. Let's take a look at our next image. And that really tells us that experience of Kaiwi, that beautiful coastline, right?
Yeah, it's magnificent.
And then if we go to our next image, there's another great image of our fishermen on that Kaiwi coastline. So this was a long battle. And as you said, you've been with it for 20 plus years. Mm-hmm. We have people in our community that are 50 plus years, and it's, again, amazing. And in 1982, we have an image of one of the last rallies that were held. Mm-hmm. And I think if we can take a look at it, you can see again, stopping the Queens Beach ripoff. And you'll hear Queens Beach, and that was actually a development name. There was no association with the Queen. There was no cultural attachment to that name, but it became the development name. So it was Queens Beach. And then, thank goodness, the community prevails, right?
Yes. And then again with Save Sandy Beach, it went on and on.
On and on. And then, but they did prevail. And in 2007, there was a gathering, and then we have an image of these people, and some of them are going to be friends of yours, I know, as we look at this photo, right? Mm-hmm. Tell me who you see in this photo.
Can't pick them out.
There's so many, right?
Yeah.
But that was a big celebration about Kaiwi, right? And we think, oh, we've got Kaiwi. And then we go to our Mauka lands in 2015. And then that was a fundraiser to secure those lands. And again, if we look at imagery again, we can look at that community issue going forward and saving those Mauka lands. And you see the connection, Reese, between the Mauka lands and the Makai lands? How important it is to have that Mauka and Makai connection, do you think?
Well, we wanted a scenic coast, and you can't have one without the other. You've got to do the mountains and the coastline, and that's what we've got after a lot of community involvement.
So we were able as a community to raise the funds with the Trust for Public Land to work with Clean Water Natural Lands and to work with the Legacy Lands. And the Hui, Livable Hawaii Kai Hui, moved that initiative forward. So right when you think everything's okay, then we see the lands like you saw. You saw cars going in there. You saw maybe people living in there. What was going through your mind as a community member?
Well, I didn't understand why they were driving on the beach. I mean, this is habitat for many critters, particularly the monk seal and the turtles, and the native vegetation and the dune system was being damaged, and it didn't make any sense to me.
And so what was something that you thought of that could make a difference there?
Well, I sat down with a piece of paper and I drew a boulder corral at each end. And so once the cars went in the corral, they had to exit to the highway. And then boulders along the highway and also employing the vegetation. And voila, we had a protected zone.
Voila.
Yeah.
So let's take an image. Let's take a look at one of the images from 2022. And this is really that partnership that began with a sketch on a piece of paper by Reese, and it brought in together the Surfrider Foundation, the Sierra Club, and the Livable Hawaii Kai Hui. And if we go to the next image, this is the boulder corral that Reese is talking about. Can you tell me what we're looking at, Reese?
Yeah, we're looking at the boulder area, the access area. It's a little tough to call it a parking lot because it's a little rocky, but if you're careful, you can get your vehicle in there fine. And we're just northeast of Sandy Beach.
And I want to point out in this imagery, you'll see a couple cars that are actually on the lower side. The boulder corral was just being worked on. It was not completed. That's why you'll see a bulldozer in the shot. Those areas, right, Reese, later on were covered. Let's go to our next image and we can get a close-up view of these boulders. Reese, where did these boulders come from?
Well, you know, that's an interesting story. They put money in the budget. They thought they were going to have to buy boulders. And Elizabeth Riley and I knew of boulders across from the first tee of the golf course. And those boulders were stored there by Henry J. Kaiser when he built Kalama Valley and Hawaii Kai. Imagine all the boulders he had to pull out of there in order to get those nice flat building lots. And there's thousands of boulders there, and the state they wanted this boulder protection also for the coast, and so they said come and get them, and the city had to rent the heavy equipment to get the boulders out and put them down, but it was far less than was budgeted.
What was the reaction from the community as they saw this taking place?
Well, I've heard so many positive vibes. A lot of people thought that it was being abused, and they didn't understand why. And it's labeled as a public park, a city park. Today, and back then it was called the Vavamalu Beach section of Sandy Beach Park. And Sandy Beach is well developed with lawns and parking lots and restrooms. And this was the natural part of the Sandy Beach Park, the Vavamalu Beach Park.
Because I can say, and the feedback that I got just as a Hui member has been really, really positive. And I also want to thank our Hawaii Kai Neighborhood Board, who is part of that process in the success of the Boulder Project. So the Boulder Project happens. Now these areas are protected. But not only do you do that, can you tell us what you do as far as working in the area? I think we have, if we can go to our next image, there's a map of the work area that Reese is every Tuesday, 4 to 6, and every third Thursday of the month, you can come out and join Reese. But that circular area you see of Vavamalu against, and below it, you'll see Kapali o Kamoa. For those of you who don't know, that is actually the Hawaiian name of Pele's chair. So tell me about this map, Reese.
Well, the map is showing some of showing a lot of the Kaiwi State Scenic Shoreline, soon to be Kaiwi State Park. But toward the bottom of the picture is the Vavamalu section, and it's wild. It's not good swimming beach because of rocks in the water, but it's a beautiful beach, and it's great for monk seals, and that's where we're working.
I love that you talked about the monk seals, because one of the things that's happened, because it's protected, is now we just had turtles nesting there. It's safe for them. There's no vehicles going through. But the other thing you're doing out there is you're working with student groups. And I want to take a look at our next image, because it's one of the student groups that have come out to work with you. Can you tell me who we're looking at in this picture?
That was a terrific group of Kokua, Kali'i Valley high school kids. And Kokua, Kali'i Valley gave me a phone call and said they'd like to bring the kids out for a unifying activity. And I said, come ahead. And I gave them a Wednesday morning. And that's my wife, Suzanne Harada, right there in the center. We set it up for them, and we had a great day. Some of the students were working with Suzanne. They were weeding, and they were planting, and they were collecting seed and sowing seed. And some of the students were with me on pickaxes and polar bears, and we were taking out koahali stumps. Koahali is a terrible, mean, invasive plant, and there were lots of them out there, and there are a lot less now.
Awesome. And speaking of plants, I want to look at, you brought us some pictures of some of the plants that you're putting in there, and if we can look up on the screen, we can see, tell me what we're looking at here.
The plant on the left is Pohuehui, and it's a coastal plant. And we've got about 20 of them going, but there's a lot of other plants. The little plant in the top is a Thymbristula, a sedge, and we cast seed about 10 months ago, and all of a sudden Suzanne said, "They've caught a hold. They're going." And we slammed some rocks around them, and we started watering them. And if you look closely, there's actually seed capsules coming out of the top of that plant.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes. And the plant on the lower right, that shows that used to be an off-road lane there between the dunes, and if you keep the vehicles out, why, the plants grow from dune to dune, and pretty soon you have a much more natural place.
Awesome. Let's go to the next image, because this is what happens when you bring back native plants. We get our yellow-faced bee coming back. We have our wildlife coming back, and it's so important to our area. And we've seen the wildlife return, the plants return. And one thing that's very clear with the community is that wild space, right? That's what people talk about.
Yeah, very natural space.
And so, Reese, I know you didn't start here in Hawaii. You actually came from Ohio, right? How did you end up here? What's that?
Well, I grew up in Ohio, but I went in the Air Force and moved around the Northeast, and I was stationed at the Pentagon before I came here, and they ordered me to Hawaii, to Camp Smith, to be at the Pacific Command headquarters. Mm-hmm. And I'd been to Hawaii when I was 18 on a Boy Scout trip, yeah. And here I was back, and my goodness, it had changed a lot. And it's interesting. At the end of 6 months, I said, "Gee whiz, I wonder when I go back to the mainland." And at the end of a year, I looked around and I said, I think this is it. So the difference was I had gone hiking every weekend with Hawaii Trail and Mountain Club or the Sierra Club. And I'd been to all these nooks and crannies and seen it from 10 different ways and met all these local people. And I'd met my future wife. And so I've been here for 34 years now and really love it.
So that was a good order for you to get, right? That's probably the best order you ever got, right?
Yeah,
service.
Never went back to Cincinnati.
So that love of the outdoors here by hiking, and we spoke a little bit earlier, but I want to talk again about that volunteer process you can go through with the Sierra Club Oahu. Can you explain that?
Yes, we have a service project on the third Sunday morning every month out at Vavamalu Beach. And my wife, as I mentioned, Suzanne Harada, is a plant expert. She, although a hobbyist, she's not an educated expert, but she does take care of the native plants at Bishop Museum, for instance, and she has her own plant nursery. But on Sunday mornings, that third Sunday, why she's leading folks in collecting seed and sowing seed and planting seed and weeding. And I'm at the other end of the plot, and we're taking out koa haole stumps.
So if I want to go look at a calendar and find out about it, where do I go?
You go to Oahu Group Sierra Club, hikes and outings, and there's a great calendar there of our outings, and you see exactly which third Sunday it's going to be on. And we're there from 9 to 12 in cooler weather and 8 to 11 in warmer weather. But I've had groups from 10 to 30 people out there, and they seem to really enjoy it. Those of us that are stump removers, we enjoy the workout. We don't have to go to the gym for a while, and it's just a great Sunday morning.
So, Reese, when you're out there, we all have who have been to Kaiwi, who've been to Vavamalu. We create a relationship with that space, with that very sacred vahipana. What is it about it when you're standing there? Is it the wind? Is it the smell of the ocean, the sound of the ocean? What is it that calls to you?
I've been attracted to the coast ever since I moved from Pearl City to Kaimuki. And that's the closest wild beach. I take visitors there. That's my show place. That's my close to home wild place. And I really do enjoy wild places, natural places. So you combine Vavamalu Beach with the Kaiwi State Scenic Shoreline, which the state got control of much before Vavamalu Beach, and it's a beautiful place to walk. You combine the two, and you've got just a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's really, really magical. And what I love about what you've done working with Sierra Club, with the Livable Hawaii Kai Hui, with Surfrider Foundation on this boulder project, it's that continuation of community being involved with Kaiwi for 50 years. I mean, you're a part of this story, but there's a long story. So everyone who has hands there, like that picture of George Santos talking to that group of surfers, is exactly in the area that you're working. Exactly in the area where people walk through. So you're sharing space with Kupuna, right? So I, as a community member, want to thank the Sierra Club and you for all the work that you're doing out there. It means a lot to so many of us. Is this your legacy? These boulders? Is that what it is? Are you the boulder man? What is it?
I'll claim it as a legacy for sure.
Yeah, those are some big boulders.
I had a great time in the Air Force. I loved my Air Force career, flying airplanes, and but now in this stage, I'm so pleased to be involved with this.
Yeah, it's really great. And for those of you out there, again, if you want to find out about how to get involved with the Sierra Club, again, you can go to their calendar online, Sierra Club Oahu, and you'll get your information. If you're looking to work with other groups in the area, you can go to the hawaiikaihui.org website, and you can find out what the Hui is doing in the Kaiwi Coalition. And there's many other groups that are out there. But if you're on the Kaiwi coastline, if you're there by yourself and you bring a little garbage sack with you and you walk the coastline, maybe pick up some rubbish, become part of that kuleana of taking care of that space. Don't you think, Reese, every little bit helps, right?
Yes, the Rotary, the president of my Rotary Club opened their meeting the other day, and she said, unfortunately, in order to save the planet, we're going to have to pick up other people's litter.
That happens actually. So you heard that?
Oh.
We're going to end our show with this, that you need to go to Kaiwi and you need to help pick up rubbish. I want to thank Reese Liggett from the Sierra Club for being with us, and thank all of you for that journey we went. I know there was a lot of images to look at, but it's important to understand that longer story. When you look at Kaiwi, know that there is people there who made that happen. Mahalo so much for joining us, and see you next time on Maunalua Past, Present, and Future. Aloha.